All right, welcome back, everybody. We're here for yet another in the Overwatch 2 highlight series with Coach Theory. Pretty excited for this one. I hadn't really dove much into Junker Queen prior to playing with Coach Theory, but now that he's given me some tips and tricks on how to play her, she's quickly become my favorite character by far. Coach Theory is actually his top rank is as tank. And so this is a very natural role for him. Theory, do you have anything to add on your? I know it's with a different tank, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, I still have played a lot of Junker Queen in ranked actually.
Okay.
But yeah, so yeah, I've reached top 500 playing tank, and I really just like thinking about the game like positionally and like the best places to fight for your team. And as the tank, you kind of get to choose like where fights happen and when those fights happen. So I love playing tank.
That's awesome. Well, Junker Queen's again really interesting to me because after playing it and after getting the advice from Coach Theory here on that positioning, it really opened my eyes to how important that is as a tank. Really setting the pace and the tone. And there's some tempo plays he's had me do and some things like that have been extremely interesting. So, if you don't mind, Coach Theory, just give us a quick overview of Junker Queen and kind of her role within the economy of Overwatch 2.
Yeah, so when people talk about tanks, I guess there's like three main kinds of tanks, I guess. So you've got your dive tanks, your Diva, Doomfist, Wrecking Ball, Winston. Those guys are just playing fast to engage in the enemy backline and create space that way and utilize high grounds. Then you've got, slower tanks, kind of like Sigma. Sigma's like the slowest you're gonna get with tanks. He's really gonna play for his distance. He's gonna play for his range and play slow and sustain himself. And then you've got your brawl tanks that want to play really aggressive on the front line and play for high sustain. So that's gonna be like, your Ryan, Zarya, Drunken Queen, Orisa, Ramatra. That's kind of like the main, I guess, the main tank there is in the game. And they all have their different things, of course. But so Drunken Queen, what's really interesting about her is her passive, Adrenaline Rush. And what that does is any kind of knife or melee damage you do gives you healing over time. So it could just be me knifing this bot, right? Now it puts a bleed on him, and that's going to be healing me. And same thing with this knife, right? And then same thing with my axe, and then same thing with my ult as well. Those will all apply bleeds to the enemy, which gives you heals over time. So if you can, you want to always have a bleed on an enemy. So, if I was just going to go and engage with an enemy, I'd want to at least, get one, I would want to get like one knife in, and then I'm just shooting the rest of the time, just so I have that bleed active on them.
Awesome. Question on that.
So
So if you have
yeah,
multiple targets, if you have a bleed, let's say up on all 5 of their team, does that give you 5 times the healing, or what does that look like?
yeah, that will all stack. So if you have 5 people, all with the bleed effect on them, then that's going to be 5 times more healing than you would with only one person. So you
That's
can
awesome.
you can get crazy amount of heals. Like usually when you're able to stack it on like all 5 of them sometimes, and you'll feel like you'll just have the most insane sustain for the duration of the bleeds, and it gets pretty crazy sometimes. Yeah. So to talk about her abilities, um, Junker Queen, Brawl Tank. Brawl Tanks don't have mobility, so that's the biggest weakness, right? So how do we close the distance? How do we get close with the enemy? Well, the main thing is going to be her knife. So you can put a knife on somebody and then pull them closer to you. And now I've closed the distance because she does have a shotgun. She wants to get close, right? So the main combo is like throw the knife, start your axe animation, and then pull them into your axe like that. That's going to be your main combo. Okay, and then her last ability is called Shout. And what that's going to do is it's going to give you some speed as well as all of your teammates, and then it's going to give you an over health. So right now I have 300 HP. This is because I'm in training range. She normally has like 550 HP. So I pop Shout. It gives me 150 more HP, and that goes for any of my teammates around me. So you're going to be saving that more for like a mid-fight sustain, or if you're just trying to rotate through open space with your team and try to get to a new position. But keep in mind that does have the longest cooldown out of all your cooldowns, so you want to save that for important moments where you're trading it for, trading it just for a big burst of damage coming at you. Otherwise, it's better just to play cover and try to let your teammates heal you up instead, so that you can save that shout for when you want to get super aggressive or when you need to disengage from an aggressive ult on you instead. So that's kind of a brief overview. And then her ultimate, it just charges you forward, right? And it applies that bleed we were talking about before, but then it also applies that anti-healing effect. Same thing as on his grenade. It just makes it so they can't get healed during that. So great ultimate. That's kind of her main abilities there.
Awesome. Well, let's go into some quick play games here now and kind of spectate and have you explain while you're playing it. So we'll do 2 games of quick play, let you kind of take the lead and kind of explain your positioning. And obviously that's going to be map dependent, which will, in our series, we'll get into some of that other stuff related to space and neutral space and a lot of things that you've taught me. We'll get into that later, but at least we'll see on the 2 quick play maps, and then we'll do a ranked game afterward.
Yeah.
Doctor, have I really got to eat vegetables?
I'm not.
It's like crunch, crunch, crunch. How long have I got to chew these?
I'm not impressed.
So the first thing I'm thinking when I have when I'm looking at my team comp, I got a Mercy, Lifeweaver, Genji, Soldier. So right off the bat, we're gonna be playing a little slower because Soldier and Mercy you want to play for just that poke so we can get the damage boost value. But then whenever I am looking for engages, I need to make sure my Genji has his dash at the very minimum. Ideally, he has his deflect and his dash. One more thing to note is my axe swipe. Every single person that I hit with it reduces the cooldown timer by 2 seconds. So if I swipe like all 5 of them with it, then I'll get it like almost immediately back. So we're just gonna swing right here because this space isn't contested. Makes sense for my team. Okay, we need to force Lucio out. So like if anybody's ever in your team like this, you just need to disengage and wait for them to get forced out. Okay, Lucio's dead. Now we can walk back in. Now we're just looking to play our side of the point. Ryan's in our space. Now we just want to keep this Lifeweaver out from helping the Reinhardt. So that Reinhardt had to walk out into me because he wanted to heal his Reinhardt, right? So the Lifeweaver has to back up, and if the Lifeweaver backs up, now I accomplished what I wanted to do. And now I'm simply just going to look back at the Reinhardt and shoot Reinhardt. And then same thing, if the Lifeweaver peeks out to help Reinhardt again, now I'm just pivoting back on the Lifeweaver. And so that's kind of the game you're going to play when people are in your space. Just about limiting the support from the rest of the team so that your team can deal with them. And you can back up to fight that one person in your space, but you're going to get so much more value if you can keep 2 or 3 or even 4 people back and just let my team deal with the Reinhardt instead. So now I'm just going to look for axes on this Reinhardt's team as he walks out. Look, axe these guys, and now we can look back at the Reinhardt, right? We're just shooting Reinhardt, he's in our space. And look, Reinhardt is going to be forced to leave now. And if Reinhardt leaves, then, you know, we accomplished what we wanted. Getting some blitz. You always want to make sure that you're walking with your team's ultimates when they're creating the pressure. If my Genji's blading, I should always be hard committing with them because they need to all be looking at the Genji to force him out, right? So that's going to be less damage focused towards me. And that's going to allow me to walk on their team without taking as much damage as I normally would. Okay, now they beat, we're just going to give space. Let's shout to keep my soldier up here.
So you're using your shout to actually help teammates too.
Yeah, so if I do see my teammate is low next to me and I need to shout for him, then I will shout him back out.
Is there an optimal time to use that?
Yeah, so what you want to think about when you have your ult is, you know, what can counter me. So there's going to be different things that can stun you for a sec that will cancel it, like a Roadhog Hook or Orisa Spear. So those are 2 main things that you wouldn't want to be active during that. And then you want to think about things like Kiriko Suzu, because that could cleanse my ult, right? In this comp, there isn't actually anything that can directly counter it, so there's not anything that I have to worry about too much. But I still would want to kind of soft engage a little bit, you know, wear down the resources a little bit, so then when I do go for my ult, there's just less resources for them to sustain through it.
Got it.
Yeah, so it could just be like a Lifeweaver grip. If ideally we force out Lifeweaver's, you know, pull, so whenever I do go in, he can't pull anybody out to save him. But so right now what I'm doing with my cooldowns is I'm just pretty much always cycling my knife, looking for a knife. Like, can I knife somebody and get them closer to me, right? And I'm just saving for my axe if I can, you know, swing on somebody. But my shout, you'll notice that I really save my shout for opportunities to actually trade for another cooldown of equal value, or, you know, if we actually need it. It's about needing the shout. If we don't need the shout, we're just going to save it, and it's going to be our kind of get out of jail free card, or just an extra sustain for us mid fight, just to push us a little bit further, get extra damage, you know, keep my team in the fight longer. So I prefer to save it mid fight as opposed to using it early fight. And it's still okay to use it if you're going to cross through neutral space or open space, because, you know, during that time your team is going to be taking damage. So the shout's going to give that speed boost and extra health so they can cross through those open spaces. but you know, after you cross the open space, now you're just gonna wait for your shout again before you hard engage. Okay, now we're just gonna swing an axe. Alright, now like use cooldowns, we back behind, okay? We have a knife, look for a knife. Same thing, we're gonna look for an axe on this Lucio. And we disengage. We're down Genji, okay? We just have to disengage, use this.
So would you say you're more healing dependent than some other tanks?
So when we look at that compared to the other tanks, Junker Queen is definitely gonna need less heals, you know, just because she does have that passive that gives her the healing. But you know, she's still gonna be pretty resource heavy, just because she is a brawl tank and she's gonna be in these fights pretty long. So Reinhardt's behind, we're just keeping his team at bay.
So I saw you yell right there to offset the Riptire.
Yeah, exactly. Like the Riptire is just any ultimate, right? Ultimate creates that threat. We're at a resource disadvantage. I'm trying to match that pressure by using my shout. Here, I'm not really thinking I need my ult. No, they did use Bob, but we're up so many numbers, we should be fine. Just LOS and Bob here. Okay, so they used beat. I'm just gonna play to wait this beat out, just give up a little bit of space, and then I'm gonna re-engage with my ult. Okay, so they pulled Junkrat out. Now this Ashe is isolated. She does not have support from her team. I'm gonna kill her. Okay, Soldier's ulting. We've seen the force right now. Something to keep in mind is, you know, you always want to be aware of what teammates have their ults or not. You know, I can see my life is coming up on his ult, and that just gives you an idea of what your options are. So I can kind of imagine I'm gonna have more sustain in this next fight. I can expect like that life tree, and then I can re-engage with that tree. Ashe is now isolated. We forced the Ashe out. Well, we already forced the Ashe out. We don't need to fight her anymore. We pivot to somebody else.
Yeah, that's one of the problems I have. I end up chasing people and I shouldn't.
No. I'm gonna axe these guys. Okay. And because of this pressure I make on the backline, it's making it so Reinhardt can't walk in on my team. Okay, the beat, we gotta give it this. Alright, so there were a lot of things happening there, but you kind of see the idea of just trying to pressure the enemy backline when I can, right? Like especially on defense, when you're looking at a choke, when Ryan's walking through the choke, obviously shoot the Ryan, but then whenever his team, you know, peaks that angle to support him, now I'm forcing them back, and then because of them being forced back, Ryan doesn't have any support on point, so over time Ryan's just going to be forced out when he loses his shield, and you know, he'll lose his HP over time, of course.
Got it.
So on this map, you always want to path left side, and it's just because you have access to the high ground angles, and the left side also allows you the access into like the little middle train, and that can help you close the distance on people. But right off the bat, I have Genji Tracer, so I should be thinking about looking for dives. And then we have Ana, so engaging off anti-nades as well is gonna be great here. Okay, so we see the Moira walk out right side. We're gonna engage here with our Genji. Okay, Moira fades out. Here, you know, we killed Doom. I really wish I popped my shout. No idea why I didn't. But you know, we just saw Moira. We just engaged on Moira, right? Okay, we engaged with Genji, and we should have just engaged faster with the shout. All that was. So, but yeah. So when you're playing tank and you have fast hyper mobility DPSs, it's all about playing like for a slower poke phase and then looking for high engagement value during these dives. And so whenever my Tracer's taking aggro, people are going to be looking away from me, and that's going to let me walk for free on the front line. Here, we're just shooting Doom. Doom's in our space, we need to do forcing out. Moira is killing Doom, let's force Moira out. And then the second Moira fades, we're back on that Doom. Okay, we got our Ana picked off though, so now we need to heal up space. And then against a Doomfist, all I'm thinking about is when this Doomfist is engaging, is just minimizing any support that he can get from his team. And so here that's going to be his Ana and Moira. His Ana is going to have to swing to a wider angle, and then I'm going to pivot back onto that Doomfist after the force on him. And so a lot of the time I'm just shooting at the Doomfist because he doesn't have support yet. You know, it's just about forcing Doomfist out as early as possible, and then we can start thinking about hard engaging with my team. If Doomfist is still on my team, you know, if Tracer's still on my team, there's no reason for us to be hard engaging before we force this people out. Here we're looking for knives on this Ana. And we're just poking Doom, Doom's in, all we need to do is poke Doom as well, and I'm making sure I don't charge up his punch here. And then what I do here, you're gonna see me, I attach a knife to this Doomfist. Oh, maybe it's not here, but same thing, we're just looking for knives on this Ana. And so the reason I hard engage here, I know it's like very fast paced, but my Genji blades and he gets nanoed, so that's kind of my sign to, you know, take that aggression with him. And there I had the option to ult and try to win that fight or just save it for next fight. The fight was winnable, but I just thought it was a safer call in the moment to save it for the next fight and secure the next fight win. But I wouldn't have hated an ult there from me. You can really swing either way. And it's very important to be thinking about my DPS cooldowns. If my Genji doesn't have a deflect, then if I get aggressive, he's not going to be able to support me because he won't have a deflect that doesn't engage after. And same thing for my Tracer. If my Tracer doesn't have a recall, or she's down like 2 of her blinks, I need to be waiting for her to get those resources back, so then I can engage with her. Okay. So we're just looking for the Ana. We'll on the Ana, get that kill. Alright, that was good Moira. And so here, I'm landing my knife on the Doomfist, okay? And then I'm poking the Doomfist, forcing him out. And then the second the Doomfist leaves, I'm pulling him back. And you can do the same thing with a Winston Wrecking Ball. It's like, say a Winston dives my team, I knife the Winston, but I wait to knife him until the Winston uses his jump. So I can kind of negate his mobility of escape by knifing him at that right moment, kind of right as he's leaving. And here, we're just pressuring the Slifer Bear out, and now by the time Doomfist gets disengaged, he didn't have support because I was keeping his team back, right? So that Doomfist needed to either disengage earlier, or his supports would have had to walk into me, and I would have gotten too much value on them. So Genji's behind my team, we're all aware of it right now. And it's really important to realize when your team pivots away from you. Right here, my backline leaves to deal with Genji, and I recognize that. So I don't really do anything, but I'm just being safe, taking that precaution to step into a side room so I don't lose resources while my team just deals with anything that's behind us. And then after they deal with that thing, okay, now I can walk back into that frontline space. And disclaimer, if my mechanics look really weird, it's because my mouse pad is messed up. I promise my mechanics aren't this bad. I promise. Okay, we're just taking a small room with this Genji. And when I'm playing in this room, I can get heals from my team, and I can't take damage from the enemy team. That's the main idea that I'm looking for there. Okay, same thing. My Genji's ulting and engaging, so I'm just walking with the pressure. And a lot of the time, I'm not actually having to do too much of anything. But the main thing that I'm looking for is when does my team have cooldowns? Particularly with my DPSs, but it could also be my Ana. Does my Ana have her nade? If I'm engaging without my Ana nade, that's just gonna be less value, right? So like every hero kind of has their cooldown cycle. Mine would be my knife, my axe, and then the end of my cycle or somewhere mid cycle, I'm gonna be shouting, right? Ana has her nade in her sleep dart. Genji has his dash and his deflect. We want to make sure these cycles are in sync with each other, and a lot of the time, people will accidentally unsynchronize those. So it's like I'll go in with my knife and my axe, and then I'll go out, and now my Genji will go in, and then I'll go in without him. And it's really just about one of the people stepping up to just recognize, okay, my teammate doesn't have his cooldowns, so now I'm gonna wait for him to get them back, and then I'm gonna go in with him. And sometimes people will accidentally be on the right cycle, and like they'll have a game when they completely roll, and they're like, what did I do differently? It's just that they're accidentally falling into the right place. So what you really need to think about is purposefully going into that right play instead of sometimes accidentally syncing with your teammates' cycles of cooldowns and then sometimes not. So yeah, that's
Awesome.
that's kind of my main thoughts there.
No, that's great. It's good too, because I think between that and then what you brought up earlier around kind of the healing composition, I think that's something that's been a big takeaway for me today is understanding that some games feel like, yeah, like I'm Junker Queen and I'm a god, and then other games I'm like, why am I getting destroyed so much, right? And there's a myriad of reasons. It could be that the other team's hitting their shots and this team's not hitting their shots. It could be that the healing composition is off. It could be that I'm playing out in the open like I'm a tank with a shield, right, as opposed to being somebody who has to play corners and stuff like that. So it's been very enlightening because I think a lot of people, myself included, out of the gate are under the presumption that, oh, I'm a tank, I have more health, so inherently I can just go out there and be bold. And I think the realization is, no, I actually have to play angles. I have to play smart. I have to, if all five of their teammates are attacking me at once, regardless of what class or character I am, I'm going to die, right? And that's, I guess, one of the other things I considered is, right, at the highest level of play, the person who's playing that character has the same amount of hit points that I do. All they're doing is leveraging things like space, mechanics, teamwork, synergies, etc.
Exactly.
That's the only difference, right? It's like a game of StarCraft, where that's the thing I like about Overwatch and things. It's something where everyone starting the match has equal opportunity to win. There's no, you played 1,000 hours and I played, so I have better gear or whatever, like an MMO type thing. It's like in this engagement, we are completely equal aside from our skill set.
Yeah. So I guess the main takeaways I can really give are, purposefully matching your cooldown cycles with your teammates. Whether it's your support or your DPS, and this can really apply to any role, but on a tank it's really important because you're deciding when your team is initiating in these engagements. So if your team doesn't have their cooldowns, well, like, why are you engaging, right? Like, wait for them to get those cooldowns and then we can engage. And this also applies to like bigger cycles when we have ultimates in play. Like whenever my Genji was ulting, I want to make sure I have like my shout when my Genji ults, and just to really stack all of that pressure together, because my shout's gonna give my Genji overhealth and that speed boost, so it's gonna make his ult all that much better. And if you can just really think about when you can use your cooldowns and how to combo your cooldowns with your teammates' cooldowns, and like really make sure you have them at the same time, then you're gonna get infinitely more value than you would just like randomly throwing out your cooldowns, not thinking about your teammates.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And it's interesting to see how, I would say, maybe people synergize more in the ranked play because people understand these concepts versus when you go into solo queue. I think a lot about any coordinated thing, like if you've done Mythic Plus dungeons or if you've done like in Diablo, different greater rifts and stuff like that. Like the coordination as you get to the higher levels among team members is kind of expected, and so it's oftentimes harder to do easier content because the people that you're doing it with don't understand the fundamentals. And that's what I've kind of come across. I think we talked about this a little bit in the last video, but like people look like when we were watching one of your replays earlier, right, when we were playing, and you hard disengaged because you knew that if you went in, you would die. But if to the novice who didn't understand, they would be like, our tank is behind us.
Yeah.
He's a bad
Yeah.
tank, not understanding that no, your tank's behind you because you're not
Exactly.
playing appropriately.
And it's basically just me recognizing that we were never like at an equal like cooldown or resource situation. It was just always a resource disadvantage for my team. So I'm like, well, like what can you do, right? You know, my team dies, my team dies, my team dies. Like you just have to keep disengaging, and that's kind of how it goes. But I would try not to get too caught up about those, even if it's happening in your ranked games, because it's always gonna go the other way too. Like just like before this game, I like had a game where it was just not a good game. Like it was kind of the same situation where my teammates were just misplaying, making mistakes, and it's like not really their fault. Like they're trying their hardest, right? Like it was just unfortunate they made some mistakes. Like that's the way it goes. But then you're also gonna have times where the enemy team makes mistakes, and like now you're gonna have a resource advantage. So it's just about capitalizing when your team has a resource advantage, and just minimizing your resource consumption when you're at that disadvantage, and like just really recognizing, okay, I need to disengage, and then when you do have the resource advantage, like when your team's popping ults, you need to recognize, okay, we have the advantage, like go go go, take advantage of this opportunity, like take this space, we have all these resources, we should be getting a kill, or at least taking all this space in front of us, right?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again, Coach Theory. This one was really exciting for me because I found an affinity towards this character. Looking forward to our next video, which we're going to be highlighting a different DPS. So stay tuned for that. We'll plan on dropping that one next week. But please leave comments, questions below around Junker Queen. And again, feel free to look up Coach Theory on Fiverr. He's done so much work with me, and we've really got some really deep dive exchanges together, and I've learned so much about the game in the last 2 to 3 weeks that I've been playing it seriously. And I would say, if you want to really elevate your game, I would look at reaching out to Coach Theory and seeing what exists. He has 3 different packages available, and again, what I've seen personally, and I mean, Coach Theory can tell you, like, I'm not a professional player. I'm currently playing Gold 5, but for not having many hours in the game at all, like the fundamentals that have been introduced to me through Coach Theory's coaching up to this point have really moved my game forward.
Yeah, no, that's awesome to hear.
Cool.
And there definitely are like more advanced concepts that I'm not really getting into right now because I just want it to be more of an individual hero thing. But for sure, like in more heroes down the line or just more videos, we can dive into like deeper concepts of the game and just different hero compositions and all those kind of things. But if you really do want that one-on-one experience and to really dive into the deepest thing you possibly can, then Fiverr is going to be the place for you to do that.
Awesome.
But yeah, it's been
Great.
awesome.
Well, thanks again, Coach Theory, and thanks everyone for watching. Please subscribe to the video, like it, share it with other folks that may find this valuable. Again, the amount of people that I've anecdotally talked to about Junker Queen after learning what I have from Coach Theory that didn't understand some of the core concepts, didn't understand the passive and a lot of those things, is actually pretty enlightening to me. The amount of people, quite honestly, that don't know what it means when someone's health bar is outlined with purple, because I was like, oh yeah, they're purple. I don't know what that means. It's a pretty big deal, right? When they have that healing debuff, it's a pretty major deal. And so again, the more you can introduce your friends to those concepts, the better your team play is going to be as well. So again, thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one.
Yep.